productivity, winning strategies, and aligning employer-employee goals. If this sounds like something your business could use more of, then you've come to the right place. The Business Mechanic Show with your host, Vaughn Sigmund. Let Vaughn show you how to develop, improve, and jumpstart your business. So now, please welcome the host of The Business Mechanic, Vaughn Sigmund.
As a sales manager, your success hinges not only on setting ambitious goals, but also ensuring your team is fully committed to achieving them. To transform these goals from top-down mandates into shared objectives, it's essential to foster a collaborative environment where each team member feels a sense of ownership and belief in the goals. So today we're going to talk about involving your team in the goal-setting process, maintaining clear and open communication, empowering them with decision-making roles. Yes, I said that, decision-making roles in their goals, and aligning goals with their personal aspirations. By doing all this, you can inspire a level of dedication and enthusiasm that drives exceptional performance. So during this section, we'll delve into practical techniques for gaining buy-in from your sales team, ensuring that goals are not just met, but exceeded through collective effort and their commitment. Clearly communicating your expectations to each team member regarding what needs to be achieved within a specific time frame is absolutely crucial for your sales team to fully understand what you're saying and what you're having them commit to. Take the time to thoroughly explain your expectations and to ask for commitment from your team. We're going to talk a lot more about that in just a little bit. Encourage them to ask questions. Yeah, have them challenge you on these goals and how you're going to achieve them. Get those questions out there that they may have about what to expect and how to get it done. And you may be surprised to discover that there's a lack of understanding among your team members, and I've seen this so many times. Just because you're talking doesn't mean you're communicating. So you need to seek questions. Ask open-ended questions. You want to get it all out on the table, especially their disagreements. And so when you're answering the questions or responding to anything your sales team is bringing up, make sure your responses are clear and easy to comprehend. And for sure, avoid ambiguity at all costs. Ambiguity may work for politicians, but in the long run, it only hinders your ability to become an exceptional, inspirational sales manager. So now let's talk about how to effectively communicate with your sales team. You understand as a sales leader, or if you're a business owner, setting and achieving your goals it's crucial. However, you need to communicate your expectations to this sales team in the ways I'm going to share with you during this section. This is where many business owners and sales leaders miss the mark over and over again. And they don't know it. They don't realize it. They get really frustrated with the sales team because they're not hitting the goals, or they find out later that they didn't understand some aspect of it, or they're for sure not completely bought in. Studies have shown that communication issues are why sales teams don't meet their expected goals. So how can you avoid this pitfall and set your sales team up for success? Let's go through and explore some actionable tips. And I'll share some best practices into this tactic. The first step to effective communication with your sales team is to clearly communicate the sales goals and expectations. So you want them to be smart, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time-bound. Clearly define the metrics for success. For instance, how much revenue needs to be generated, the number of leads that need to be converted, how many meetings need to be set, and so forth. And further, establish specific time frames for achieving these goals. It could be monthly, bi-monthly, quarterly, yearly. I'm not a big fan of yearly goals or quarterly goals. It really needs to be broken down into monthly and maybe even weekly goals. Shorter is better. Explain your expectations as you're going through this in detail. Go over each metric and clarify any questions or concerns that your sales team may have before setting these goals. But how do you ask for and gain commitment to ensure that they understand what is expected of them and really commit to it? It's vital for you to really listen and adopt some of these best practices I'm about to share with you. It's vital because you must have your sales team on board with their goals. If they don't believe in them, you're very unlikely to achieve them. But when you gain their buy-in, this ensures that they're committed to achieving them. They may not always hit them, but at least you got their hearts and minds behind them. And to make these goals truly theirs, and not just mandates from the top or mandates from you, consider some of these techniques I'm about to share with you. One, it's the one that I've found works the best 100% of the time. I've seen teams make dramatic improvements when the sales leader just uses this one technique. Involve them in the goal setting process. Collaborate goal setting sessions. Instead of merely presenting the goals, involve them. Make them a part of it. Organize brainstorming sessions with your team members so that they can share their insights, contribute their experiences, maybe some developmental opportunities, and making sure that the goals are realistic and achievable. Like I've said in previous tactics, if they don't believe in it from the beginning, if they think it's BS from the beginning, you're dead at the starting gate. So this best practice of getting their commitment, buy-in, thoughts, collaborate with them. And then it's really important to create feedback loops. Regularly seek feedback from your team on the goals and quotas. And this can be done through one-on-ones, team meetings, team discussions, and incorporate their feedback to refine and adjust the goals as needed when you can. And a second big component of this is for you to have clear and open communication. Transparent rationales. You must have transparent rationales. Explain the reasoning behind each goal and quota. Align it with the company's needs and their needs. And I'll talk more about that in a little bit. When team members understand the why behind the targets, they're much more likely to feel aligned with the objectives. So take the time and include the why. And then it's really important to have regular check-ins and updates. Maintaining open lines of communication through regular updates. The sales board, it's going to be on a screen, it's going to be on a board, it's going to be on a dashboard so that they can see the progress. This helps in addressing any concerns promptly and ensures that everyone stays informed and engaged. And this is the big key component of this is empowerment and ownership. You need to empower their decision-making. Make them part of it. Encourage your team members to take ownership of their roles by involving them in setting their goals. Allow them to have a say in how they'll achieve those goals. What are their steps? What's going to be their process? What's their plan? And this all fosters a sense of ownership, buy-in, accountability. And you might even think about assigning leadership roles. Designate a team member for specific and initiatives or projects. This not only distributes responsibility off of you, but also promotes a sense of leadership and commitment and development within your team. And I said I'd talk about this, and now it's time. Align the goals with their individual aspirations. You should be, as I've mentioned previously too, they all need to have a personal development plan. And linking these team goals, their individual goals, to their personal or career aspirations is essential. You see, when team members see how achieving sales targets can benefit their personal growth and career progression, much more likely, much more motivated. But you have to know what their personal aspirations are. You have to have that professional relationship with each of your team members. You need to be very open with them about how you can help them get to where they want to be. It's never about you, it's about them. And then, as I say over and over, I got to say it again, recognition, rewards, implement a system of recognition. Give them rewards. Let them see that you're seeing their hard work. Celebrate the milestones, celebrate successes, even the little ones along the way. This helps reinforce this commitment. And then, above all, foster a collaborative environment. Maybe have some team building activities. Regularly engage your team in promoting trust and collaboration. A cohesive team is much more likely to work together towards common goals. Maybe you even want to have some cross-functional collaboration. Maybe operations needs to join you. Maybe buying or purchasing needs to join you. Maybe the planning department needs to join you, the design department. Encourage collaborations with other departments. This will broaden perspectives and foster a more integrated approach to achieving goals. Those are all really key best practices. By fostering an open dialogue, actively seeking input, empowering your team with leadership roles, giving them the necessary resources. This approach creates a sense of shared ownership and gains their commitment. You're inspiring them, and they're going to be much more motivated and engaged. And another key component of all this is clarification. You must encourage clarification. What does that mean? You need to have your sales team feel open, safe, and willing to ask questions. They can clarify these expectations. Ambiguity around goals can result in confusion, frustration, miscommunication. It drives wedges between you and their goals. And let them know. And you must be the type of leader that you're always open to questions, their concerns. Always be available to explain things further. Encourage your team to seek clarification on a regular basis. That's why you need that open door policy. You need to be available to them. And then it's vital to repeat and reinforce your goals and expectations regularly, daily, weekly. Your sales team must have a clear understanding of these expectations, behaviors, best practices, the ones that influence the metrics for success. Make this a regular conversation daily for accountability and performance monitoring. The more you talk about it, the more likely it is to be achieved. And certainly you want to be fair and open-minded about any potential barriers that they see, or maybe even they don't see, but you need to see: seasonality, product modifications, industry-related issues. And you're going to have to fight to get the goals adjusted accordingly. Seasonality is a big part of it that I see many companies not take into account. You should always be looking at this year to last year. This year, this month, last year, this month, so that you're taking into account what really happens during those 30, 31 days. Some months are better than others. It's not a flat line. And by using this process, that's going to ensure that everyone is kept on track, regardless of how busy they are or you are. This is one of your top priorities. But let me warn you, one of the most common issues in communication is the difference between what was said and what was heard. I see so many people get tripped up on this. Misunderstanding and misinterpretation will lead to your frustration, their frustration, probably your boss's frustration. Your role in this, one of the many roles you have in this, is ensuring what is said is in turn heard and understood and bought into. And this is all achieved through your communication approach. How? Always in your interactions with the following best practice. It is critical. Simple, it's easy, very few people do it. Only the best do this. Just ask your sales team member or your sales team and all together. Okay, great discussion. What are we agreeing to? Have them repeat to you what you need them to go do. And often you'll find that they got most of it. Hardly ever do they get all of it. So save yourself the frustration and ask that question. What are we committing to here? What are we going to go do once we go through that door? When are we going to do it? How are we going to do it? How often are we going to do it? Get that feedback loop, because effective communication is so vital to any business setting, industry agnostic. Clear, concise communication. When you have that, it ensures that everyone is on the same page and all rowing together towards that same goal. Now, why during either a one-on-one session or a group session do people hear something different than what is said? Well, they're humans, and they each have an individual filter. You don't know where their mind's at, what they're thinking about. Maybe they're trying to catch up from something else they were thinking about and they missed part of the discussion. Maybe they got hung up on something or chewing on that as the discussion carries on. Or maybe they just don't believe in it and they're just stuck on that. Each person has a unique perspective. Sometimes it's their background, sometimes it's their culture. And each individual's filter can influence how they understand and most certainly interpret these messages, these expectations, goals. So it's vital to consider the audience when communicating and asking that best practice question. What are we committing? What are we committing to here? And oh, by the way, another common reason for misinterpretation is due to the delivery of the message. Could be you. Sometimes people, sales leaders, communicate in a way that is just too complicated or unclear. That leads to confusion, misunderstandings. So it's important to deliver the message in a concise, clear, simple way. So make sure you're using language that is easy to understand. Avoid using jargon or technical terms that may or may not resonate with your audience. And oh boy, this is a big one. Active listening. Lead with your ears. I talk about it very often. It's essential. It's essential to ensuring that everyone's on the same page. If you're not reading the room and interpreting what they're telling you, very often we're too far down the road and failing or coming up short when we could have prevented that from the beginning if we just listened, read the room. When you're actively listening, you're fully present in the conversation. You got to get your perceptions put in check, your ego put in check. You got to make sure that you're really hearing and understanding whatever they're feeding you back, whatever their questions or concerns are. Being a good active listener involves you paying attention to whoever's speaking, their tone, their body language. Watch them. Don't dismiss them. Don't jump on them. Don't be defensive. And also, one key best practice is to confirm what you heard by repeating it. Let me just make sure I got this right. You said, you feel, your concern is. Say that back to whoever shared that with you to make sure you're both on the same page. It's likely you can misinterpret something too. So that's what a good active listener, that's what they do. And make sure they heard it. So they're listening, they're confirming by repeating it back, paraphrase it back. So confirm your understanding. Super effective in preventing miscommunication. And after delivering a message, it's really important to ask for feedback and finding out if they all understood correctly. Repeat back to me what we just committed to here, folks. And listen, if you're in a complex or sensitive situation where there's some likelihood of misinterpretation, some big changes taking place, can lead to serious consequences. Don't assume. Ask for feedback. Have them tell you what they're hearing, what they're committing to. That builds value and respect in you, believe me. And if there's something that hasn't been considered, and this happens all the time in setting these goals, you've got to be the leader to go make the change. You've got to be willing to adjust it. Go fight with the boss over it. Negotiate. What does all this sound like? Okay, team, what are your thoughts on this? Share with me how likely we are to achieve this. Hey, what's going to prevent us from making this goal? Those kind of questions. And then for sure, getting everything out on the table is essential because you want to avoid passive aggressiveness. It'll tank your sales. The team has to know that you really want to hear their thoughts. And as I've said previously, you want to hear their complaints. I want to hear why they're fighting the goal. If I don't know about their complaints or their disagreements or their hesitancy, I can't do anything about it. I can't explain the why. I can't help them understand. They're going to march out of this room with a preconceived thought or notion that's going to hold them back. They may have a catastrophic mindset. They may have self-limiting behaviors that if you don't ever find these out until later, when they disagreed or thought your goal was BS, you're going to not maximize your sales. And underlying all this, I'm going to say it again, check your ego. Their questions, their disagreements are not personally targeted at you. If you react defensively, well, you're going to crater your ability to collaborate with your team. You're just going to undo it all. You're not always right. You may be the smartest person in the room, but you're not smarter than the room. Be aware of your body language, tone, your facial expressions. Don't shut this communication down. You want it all, even complaints, because you want to be able to deal with those. At least know that's an issue so that maybe in the future you take that into consideration. You can have a discussion with your boss. So you want to prevent misinterpretation, misunderstandings. The problem with communication is often we believe we are communicating, we're really not. Communication involves a dialogue, not a monologue. You may be the greatest orator on the planet, but if they're not involved, 80-20, 80-20, they should be speaking 80% of the time, you 20% of the time. If you can master that, include them in these discussions, you've just created a force multiplier. Your likelihood of success and achievement goes stratospheric. Is that even a word? Make sure you're considering your audience. Use concise, simple language, active listening, confirm understanding. If you're doing all these things, you're going to avoid their frustration, your frustration. You're going to avoid missing goals. You're going to avoid future conflict that you didn't know anything about until it's too late. You do all this, your team, your business is going to thrive. But you must avoid ambiguity at all cost. Make sure your messages, expectations, metrics are all perfectly clear, concise, easily understood. Avoid complex jargon. And for sure, make information accessible to everyone. That's written with a clarity of language. And for sure, again, avoid making any kind of assumptions that what you're saying is being understood. Encourage clarification, questions, the time frames, the goals. Repeat, reinforce your expectations in daily, weekly, monthly meetings. What gets talked about gets achieved. And steer clear of ambiguity. Don't assume that everybody understands. That's that feedback loop. You got to get them involved. Because often, if they don't understand or they're not bought in, you're too far down the road to do anything about it. And all underlying all this is an open line of communication. You need to be accountable for that. And you also need to manage by walking around, checking in on your team, making sure that you're on the same page. Don't assume, ask. And if you follow these tips and best practices I've shared with you today, not only you're going to improve your communication with your sales team, but you're going to increase the likelihood of reaching your sales goals. Lack of clarity can lead to salespeople thinking you have misled them. It's a fundamental skill. And today we've covered some really critical aspects of clear communication and setting expectations, collaborating with your team to gain buy-in. And you being able to articulate, identify goals, offer insights and coaching, open communication, trust, respect, clear, concise, simple, repeating back to them, active listening, offering your insights and advice. Encourage the team to commit and address potential misunderstandings. Avoid that jargon and complexity. Keep it simple. Communicate your expectations clearly with the expectations time frames, specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, time-bound. The importance of aligning expectations with your team's objectives, their individual aspirations. Encourage and ensure your team is committed to a collaborative approach to setting the goals. Ask for them to repeat back to you so you can avoid any misunderstandings. The repeat back technique. The pitfalls of ambiguity. Keep that in mind. Please incorporate all of these strategies during this tactic for providing clear and unambiguous answers to your sales team. Now, let's get out there and let's get after it. Well, that's a wrap on another episode of the Business Mechanic Show. If today's content resonates with you, then you're going to love what we have to offer. From performance coaching designed to enhance your potential, to executive coaching that guides leaders to steer their ships towards greater success. Are you in sales management or looking to fortify your leadership acumen? Dive into our sales management training and coaching. Not only will it sharpen your strategies, but it will also provide you an ROI that's undeniable. Remember, the best investment you can make is in yourself and your team. And the best part, prices start at just $47 per month, making top-tier coaching and training accessible for everyone. Your growth, both personally and professionally, can have a ripple effect, the one I call the transformational triangle of change. Thanks once again for tuning in, and remember, every business needs a tune-up every now and then. Let the Business Mechanic Show be your guide. Check out our website, rdltraining.com, to discover more details on our programs and coaches. We have a link in the show notes to guide you there. Until next time, we're out of here.